If they can do this to legal residents, what makes you think that they can't do this to you? In the last couple of weeks, we've started to see more and more reporting about people being abducted in broad daylight and disappeared from the US. And this is all part of the Trump administration's plan to rid the streets of quote unquote undesirables and criminal rapists that he believes are all over the US. But what have we actually seen in these mass deportations? And certainly in these public disappearings, what we've seen is something that's eerily similar to the early stages of the Third Reich. During that era, the leadership of the time had identified certain groups that were designated as degenerates and criminals that should be rounded up and disappeared. And after those decrees, you had the private citizenry ratting out their neighbors, as well as brown shirts patrolling the streets and disappearing anybody that they thought was a threat to the administration. When we fast forward to today, what are we seeing? We're seeing bounties being placed for the identification and reporting of quote unquote illegal migrants. And we're also seeing snitch patrols show up and identify their friends and neighbors for targeting. On top of that, what we're seeing now, and we've seen this over the last couple of weeks, are people who are legally residing in the US being rounded up and thrown into vans and disappeared. Two recent cases, Mamadou Tal and Rumiza Ozturk, were both disappeared. And there are at least 8 other foreign academics who have been removed and nobody knows their whereabouts. And in the case of Ozturk, what's interesting is that she was leaving a building and a couple of unidentified masked people approach her, and she is swarmed by a handful of supposedly ICE officers, handcuffed and taken away. So is that what we're doing now? Are we the country that is mass disappearing people to the point where a tracker has been set up and you can track where people have been disappeared to or where people are being disappeared from? That's what we're doing. And while some folks might say it's no big deal, they shouldn't have been here in the first place, keep in mind, these 8 instances that I'm talking about, paired with the other 250 or so that have already happened, are being disappeared without any due process. And before anybody actually comments about they're here illegally, it's against the Constitution to deny people their due process rights if they reside within the borders of the US. And before you make the argument that the Constitution only applies to legal residents or citizens, if that were actually the application, then no one would be bound by the laws of the Constitution or the US if those protections don't extend to anyone who isn't here legally. And the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of these people that have been shipped off, they haven't had any court cases, they haven't had an opportunity to understand their charges, they haven't had representation, they're being rounded up and shipped off to a foreign country. Make no mistake about it, that act in and of itself is a war crime. If you are rounding up people within your country and shipping them off without trial to another country to be imprisoned in a gulag, that's a war crime. This administration is actively committing war crimes within their borders. And if you're sitting there and shrugging your shoulders, thinking that it doesn't impact me, it's not going to be long before it comes to your doorstep either. And what's worse about all of this is that innocent people are being rounded up and caught in the crossfire as well. We have reports of a father of 3 who's been shipped off to El Salvador, and the administration has admitted that they made a mistake, and when told that they need to fix it, they shrugged their shoulders and said, it's out of our hands now. This is the administration that you're dealing with right now. An administration that is really in the early stages of what we saw in 1930s Germany. If we're not going to rise up and fight back against our neighbors and our friends and our fellow citizens and our fellow residents being disappeared off the streets, we're not going to like the logical conclusion of that trend. This is the testing phase to see what are the boundaries that we are willing to tolerate. This should be a line in the sand. We are not the type of society that disappears people. Apparently, 77 million people seem to think it's no big deal. They're going to be singing a different tune when this happens to them because it is coming for you. Because the first step in all of this is to remove the quote undesirables. And once those people are removed, anybody else that isn't in the inner circle becomes a target as well. So you may think you have safety because you're a citizen or a legal resident. That's obviously being proven wrong as we speak, but it won't be long before this is coming for you as well. So you need to decide when you want to take your stand, because the longer you wait, the worse the outcomes are going to be.